Shabbos Daf Tzadik, we're continuing with the different amounts necessary in order to be chayiv on Haitzah from taking something from one domain to another. The Mishnah talks about things that you could create dye with. The peel of a pomegranate, the peel of a nut, satis, pua, and the shir is pi svacha. Svacha is a head covering that women wear under their hat. Pi svacha is the opening of that covering. That's a larger shir than if the dye is already made. If the dye is already made, then it's dugma li'ira, which is a sample that merchants have of their garments. Ira is a weaver's bobbin, which is the device that holds the thread when they throw the thread through the loom from side to side. It's a smaller piece of fabric. Meraglayim, these are stain removers, and the shear is also pi svacha. According to Rashi in the Gemara, it's when the meraglayim is at least 40 days old. According to Taisus, from 3 to 40 days old. Rashi's in another place. Neser, says the Gemara, this is also a stain remover, has to be from Alexandria. Boris, the Gemara translates as aloe vera. There's two types of aloe vera. In order to be chayiv in Shemitah, it has to be a vegetable, something that grows in the ground that has roots. Therefore, when the Gemara says that they added boris to Shemitah, it cannot be that it means it is sulfur, because sulfur obviously doesn't have roots. Kimolya is shleif dutz, which Rashi says he doesn't know what it is exactly. The article says possibly saltwort. Ashlag, which translates as shoshana, which is in a pearl, which is removed with a very sharp metal object. Pilpil, some sort of pepper. The shear is kolshu, a very minor amount, and they use it as a mouthwash to remove the odor in the mouth. Idron, which is zefet tar, again it's kolshu, it's used for migraines. Certain besamim, kolshu, anything that has a bad smell, which is used to chase away mazikim from sick people and young people. Great smelling oils, fragrance, argamon, which is purple dye, which also has a nice fragrance, kolshu. A young rose, one petal of a rose is the shear. Different metals, the shear is kolshu, very small amount, enough to make a prodder to prod a goat. If somebody says, I want to donate metal to the Beis HaMikdash, the amount would be 1 amma by 1 amma, enough to make a kalya oirev, to chase away the ravens which have sharp spikes. In Erechon we learned another sheet that means a physical bird crow. If somebody takes out copper, how much copper? Enough for ma'a kesef. Rebbe Lezer says not less than a small copper fork. What could you do with it? You could clean out a menorah, the wicks, etc. Avni mizbeach, the stones of the mizbeach, the dirt of the mizbeach is kol shehu. If you have decaying Sefer Torah and the mantles, the covering of the Sefer Torah, they decay because of a worm called mekek, it's bekol shehu, because you have to do gniza to it. The Gemara tells us there are different types of worms for grapes, for figs, pomegranate. They are all extremely dangerous. The Gemara tells a story that a Talmud told Rabbi Yochanan, I just ate a fig and it has thorns in it. So Rabbi Yochanan turned to others and said, this Talmud is going to die because it's not thorns, it's the worm called pa that drills holes through a person's neck. Rabbi Yehuda says, you're also chayiv on mishamsh avodah zarah, things that hold avodah zarah. He argues with what we learned earlier in the Masechta that mishamsh avodah zarah has no value at all. He holds no, since it says in the pasuk v'liyidbak biyadcha me'uma, you have a chiyuv to get rid of it, so it has a purpose. Says the Mishnah, if a person takes out a box full of samples, you're only chayiv one chatas for all the samples. The big chiddush is in Taisvis, as Taisvis explains, is that even if you have an awareness between sample and sample, and you bring a carbon on one sample, and then you realize you took out the second sample, you're still potter. Whereas if it wasn't in a box and you had an awareness in between two different items, you'd be chayiv 2 chatais. Different seeds. One man, the Tanakhama of the Mishnah says it's a little bit less than a gregaris, a dried fig. Rabbi Yehuda says it's 5 seeds, whichever is less. If you have seeds of a cucumber which have a lot of value, and they are royal in a in other words, you could plant them. Not that you are going to plant them. It's 2 seeds. If you're going to eat them, it's 1 seed enough to fill a pig's mouth, which is one seed. If you're using the seeds for, and these are seeds of dates, if you're using it for fuel, then it's enough to cook a easy egg, which is a chicken egg. If you're using it for math to keep count of something, it's either 2, or according to Acher and Remeir, it's 5, because you don't need 2 seeds to count. You start losing count after right around 5. If it's a seed of a pumpkin or a pulmitzri, it's 2. That fertilizer and thin dirt, we learned, Machlokes Rebbe Kiva, whether it's enough to fertilize 1 seed of a cabbage or 1 seed of a leek. That's because you already planted it, and as we said earlier, once it's done, then the shear is much less. If you're going to plant, then you need at least 5 seeds or more. If one takes out around 2 hairs of a horse or of a cow, you're chayiv. Why? You can make traps for birds with it. The very hard bristle on the back of a pig is 1. Palm tree leaves or palm tree vines, the leaves are 2, the vines are 1. A live grasshopper, if it's kosher and you can eat it, it's bikolshu, because you give it to your child to play with as a toy. Once it's dead, now it's food. The shear of all food is groigeres. There's a grasshopper called tziparis kramim. Whether it's alive or dead, the shear is bikolshu, a small amount, because they use it for refuah. Abaye says you can find it in a very young palm tree that has a single vine. What you do is you use it for a memory. You cut it in half, you eat half, the right half, the left half you put in a small copper tube, you seal it many, many times. The Gemara says 60, Rashi says many times. You put it on your left arm, and then you learn as much as you want. All that learning you are going to remember forever, provided that you eat the left side. If you don't eat the left side, you will lose everything that you try to learn. Tanakama says, you don't give a non-kosher grasshopper to a youngster because it might die and the child might eat it. Rabbi Yehuda says, since it's a toy for the child, instead of eating the grasshopper, he'll eulogize the grasshopper, he'll give the grasshopper hesped. Therefore, there is no concern. Have a wonderful day.